I have to tell you that I've lived in Harlem 40 years. I wake up in Harlem for the past 40 years. And I am, through the power of Almighty God, I've been able to establish or found 3 schools in Harlem that have educated hundreds and sent our graduates from the ATLAH High School off to some of the best colleges, as it were, in America, from to Yale, to Juilliard, to St. John's, to New York University, to Fordham. Our graduates have gone to some of the best schools that America has to offer, having started their educational journey here at the ATLAH World Missionary Church and the ATLAH High School and Great Tomorrow's Elementary School. But I have to tell you, looking at what critical race theory is now doing to our young people and dividing America once again, pitting black against white, this critical race theory is giving, it is destroying our young people, causing them to begin to have a hatred for white people and a disdain to be able to name call and further divide. And at the process, what this does, it gives what I refer to as the pensioner's Negro an opportunity to write books and make money off the suffering of our children, both black and white. That's Hamite and Japheth. And it ought not to be so. It is just another grift. It is just another, if you will, a little bit slicker than the Al Sharpton, Ben Crump type of a Jesse Jackson type of ways of, just making tons of money off the misery and never elevating black people. Let me tell you, as I stated, I've established 3 schools, and for more than 25 years, we've educated without using critical race theory. But if there's anybody that knows anything about it, let me further state to you that I grew up a sharecropper's son. I did. I picked cotton for $3 per 100 in the hot sun. My whole family picked cotton. We cropped tobacco as a sharecropper. And at the end of the year, Mr. Billy and Mr. Lynn Tutter, they would settle up with my father. After the crops were in, the cotton was weighed and sold. They'd give us a little money. They'd let us go to the store during the course of the week or the year and get things on credit. And then at the end of the year, at settling up time, Mr. Billy would come and say, well, here's how much food you took from the store, sugar and drinks and that kind of thing. And here's how much we made from the crops. Here's your share, and this is Mr. Billy's share. That's what sharecropping was. I did it. I lived it. And you have to understand, I can get terribly indignant at these people who ain't been nowhere near any race problems of that sort trying to talk to me or lecture me. But I want to give you that credential because I want you to understand something. I grew up in a segregated high school. I graduated from a segregated high school. I grew up in the South. I understand the whole process. I was closer to slavery than any of these people running around here talking about critical race theory and why it needs to be taught. But it was able to produce a large number of people at universities like Howard, Morehouse, and Fisk, and Tuskegee. Those universities that were produced without critical race theory. And there's one other thing I'd like to say about these people making lots of money, getting speaking engagements, being licked like a cowlick by these liberal whites, saying to, oh, you poor black thing, oh, we need to promote this book because these poor black people need to understand how white people have just hidden the truth about what went on in America. So these liberal whites are saying, oh, you poor black thing, But before critical race theory, Morehouse was established, Spelman was established, Howard University, Shaw was established, Tuskegee and doctors and lawyers and Thurgood Marshalls and a whole bunch of others were established before critical race theory. This is just one more way for what I refer to as the pensioner's Negro to get rich on the backs of black people. And I want to speak out against it. I want to condemn it. And I want to urge you to lift up my voice where you can to help condemn this profiteering on black people by these pinch-nosed Negroes who are simply for the purpose of making money on their own. There's an elephant in the room, however, when you're talking about race relations in America that are worse now than they ever have been, and critical race theory is just going to make it worse than it could possibly be. And the elephant in the room is this, is that it was black people, or Africans as they were referred to before they became slaves in America. It was the Africans or blacks that started the slave trade. You see, my brother and my sister, this elephant doesn't ever get addressed, and it needs to, that it was the black African, the witch doctor, the elder, the chief, that sold black people to white people aboard those slave ships. That's where slavery got started. It didn't get started in South Carolina or in Jamaica. It got started in Africa, where black witch doctors or chiefs, they started selling slaves. And that's the elephant that doesn't get. If you want to do critical race theory, then you need to start there. You need to start at the starting point. It got started with black folk, and that's the thing that doesn't get discussed. What does get discussed is that the white man, he was so evil, he came to Africa and took black folk black as slaves. That roots idea, a man running through the jungle of mandingos with a net and capturing 100 mandingos. Two white men with a net can capture 100 mandingos and take them back to the ship. You believe that, Alan, that roots thing, then I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you. But slavery got started with black people. They're the ones, and more specifically religiously, it was Muslim blacks who mainly were in Mali and in the great slave institutions in Timbuktu. If you're going to do critical race theory, let's go back and start with the absolute truth. There never would have been slaves in America in the first place if black people hadn't sold each other. And here's something else I think is very important, at least it is for me, that we might slam this critical race theory, stop these people from profiteering, writing books, getting on television, getting speaking engagement, going to the Kennedy Center on the backs of black people. That is actually doing more injury and dividing America than putting it together. But here's the thing I find interesting. Okay, let's say, for instance, that some white men came to Africa, right? Let's say 1,000 of them came and took 2,000 black people out of the bush, out of the jungle, put them on a ship and sailed them back to South Carolina, Charleston. Well, what about the blacks that were left behind that didn't get captured, right? Okay, so the white men come back 3 months later, 6 months later, another white 1,000, capture another black, 2,000 black, put them on a ship, take them back. So about the third time they come back, because they do this for a period of 250 years, it was seen to me that the black chiefs, the black men, the mandingos, the warriors, the witch doctors, should have been ready for them to stop them at the shore. Don't let them come back in again. And then realizing that the black man should have thought this way, the black chief, the black witch doctor, the tribal leader of the black people, where all this capturing of slaves was taking place, realize we're going to stop them. If they come back again, we got something for them. We're going to put together a massive army and kick their butts all the way back to Charlestown. They didn't do that. You have not heard one report of one battle trying to stop the slave trade, because there wasn't one. It was black folk selling black folk. So if you're going to do critical race theory, let's critique it the appropriate way. If that's what critical race theory, a critique, then let's critique it from its very beginning. But I'm through with that. No. Listen, you're there. I'm the witch doctor. I'm the chief, right? I'm the chief of and I hear that my father got captured, my mother got captured, and that was 30 years ago. Well, let's build a ship. Where'd they go? Well, they went to Charleston, South Carolina. Let's build a ship and sail 2,000 mandingos whatever weapons of choice that the black man has in Africa, let's sail over there and capture our black people that are on there working as slaves down there in North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. Let's go get our black brothers. Let's go rescue them. Let's put together an armada of ships and let's go to Charleston and kick them white people's butt all up and down the Mississippi River. They didn't do that either. But the slave trade went on for 250 years, and every time there was a need for a replenishment of more slaves, they were welcome. The white man was welcome to the shores of Africa to get more slaves for 250 years, and there was never an attempt by any African with enough military strength, a love for his own brother or mother to board a ship and say, I'm going over here like Moses, and I'm going to set my people free. No, that didn't happen. So if we're going to critique or race theory, let's tell it like it is. What you see going on with these people now is nothing more than the Martin Luther King marching is over with. That don't do nothing no more. And, you know, situations of ghettos are worse now. So let's try to find another way to whoop the white man. Let's try to find another way to make money and become powerful, get speaking engagements, be on television, and on and on and on. And so here comes critical race theory. Let me say one other thing about, I see a lot of people talking about where, white people, police officers treat white people different than they treat black people, that if a black man was running down the street with a gun as opposed to a white man running down the street with a gun. Yeah, I have to admit, not shamefully, but yes, police officers, including black police officers, treat white people with guns different than they do with black people. Can I just tell you why, if you don't mind my saying so? Blacks have a reputation, as do Muslims. Jews got a reputation, gefilte fish, and, they like to, people got that reputation, black people got watermelon, fried chicken, people have reputation. Chinese got that, the sweet and sour rice. People have reputation, that people have cultural things that stand out, that precede them. Black people have a reputation. Go to church. Black people love to go to church. They love to go, go to church and because they have a good time. And they want to have a good time when you don't come to ATLAH because that pastor man ain't going to stand up there and preach and lecture you and teach you for 2 hours. You ain't going to be able to have a good time. But, a lot of people believe about black people that all of them can sing. Most people think all black people are good singers and good dancers. And black churches are known for their gospel. You don't hear the gospel. You don't go to white church. And I'm not being derogative here. I'm simply trying to tell you why even a black police officer would treat a white man with a gun different than he does a black man with a gun because of reputations. Black people, Hamites they are, have reputation of being very fertile, having a lot of children, I think that reputation has been taken away from them by the Mexicans now, and the Muslims too, but, and I think Hamite people have stopped having children because they're all gone LGBTQ now. But and Hamite black people also have reputation of having a poor neighborhood. But here's the thing I want to say to you, the camel in the room here regarding all this. Had it been a white man running down the street with an AR-15, the police would have shot him. Yeah, you're right. He would. I agree. Had it been a black man, rather, run down the street with an AR-15, police would have shot him. Yeah, he would have. No, he would have. But police, even black police, treat white people with guns differently. And here's why. It's because black people, Hamites they are, have a reputation of being a violent people. During the Obama years, black-on-black crime, just in Chicago, and just one little enclave of Chicago, not the whole city, not Michigan Avenue, just a little enclave in the ghetto of Chicago, black people killed 4,000 of each other in a period of 8 years. That's right. Just black-on-black crime. And Lord, don't take me over to South Central Los Angeles during the 80s and the 90s with the Bloods and the Crips of black-on-black crime. Black people have a reputation of being violent. Jesse Jackson said several years ago, and you can research this, you people at the Washington Post and you critical race theory people. Jesse Jackson said this, that if he's in Harlem and walking down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning and hear footsteps behind him, he prays that it's white people and not black people. Because black folk have a reputation, even among black folk, of being very violent. So the odds are that police are going to shoot first and ask questions later if you're black. Here's what I'm trying to get to. We've got to stop asking white people to do better. We got to do better ourselves. We got to change our reputations. We've got to change what we're known for. You know, maybe we ought to start eating gefilte fish. I don't know, you know. But our reputation precedes us. And people respond to you based on that. And I think if we went out about the business of working on those things, not being violent, we worked on our neighborhoods. This we can do ourselves, right? We don't have to ask white folk to do it. We don't have to have no critical race theory to get this. We need to look inside of our own heart. I think Jesus would say we need to get the log out of our own eye before we get the splinter out the white man's eye. But you know, my voice and voices that say this, who said the white people are in trouble, we're our own problem. We need to change the way we drive up. And we can do that. And we can be less intimidating. You know, we don't have to be known as a violent people. We can change that. We don't have to be known as a people who, you know, not responsible for their neighborhoods, that in many ways are not hard, honest workers. We can change that. No, we can't. We can just sweep it across, just get into our neighborhoods and into our communities and our meeting places and say, we got to change this. We can do that. But my voice and voices, you'll never hear me on CNN being able to say this. They just want those critical race theory people who keep dividing, never telling us that we're our own problem. We are by our own reputation. We are our own problem. And we expect white people to treat us better than we treat ourselves. We expect a white police officer to treat us better than 17-year-olds treat themselves. And it is lunacy. And that you understand. But the debauchery of this, the scream of this, is that these pensionos Negroes coming out with all these woke theories and critical race theories are making millions of dollars, or coming up with these slogans such as Black Lives Matter, are making millions and millions of dollars without addressing the issue. The issue is always the white man. And never looking at if you're going to critique problems, critique them from their beginning, where they all got slavery. Listen, Africa is the mother of American slavery. That's where it got started. Africa is the mother, Africa gave birth to slavery. The Native American Indians said, we ain't doing that. They fought like the Dickens. Now they got their butts beat often. They ended up with a reservation and money. And the Indians said, we ain't being your slave. And we ain't selling one another. Hell, they didn't have to get on a boat. If they could have convinced the Indians, they would have never come over there to Africa and got y'all. But the Indians said, no, we're not going for that. We got more integrity. We'd rather be dead than in our grave before we be somebody's slave. And the Indians fought. Ask Custer and Little Bighorn. Ask them. Ask the Sioux. Ask the Cherokees. No, they said, And then they forced the government to give them the 40 acres and their own independent land. And said, you ain't coming on our land without a permit. Then right here in America, everybody, why didn't black people do that in Africa? Where they had the numbers on their side. No. If you're going to do a critical race theory, let's critique it at the appropriate place. And we got to stop this profiteering, this grifting. We got to stop this using black youth who are dying in the street because they got these pensioners, Negroes on television saying that the white man's against you. Listen, let me tell you something. You know, if the fathers were in the homes and the black communities were safe, you wouldn't need all these police. Or you can actually close down the prisons. There'll be nobody going to prison. If we teach as they teach, as I teach at ATLAH, and we just teach the truth. Teach the truth. We can shut the prison down. The police will be looking for a job somewhere else because there won't be no crime in the neighborhoods. There won't be no shooting, no burglary, no drug dealing. They're here because we are committing crimes like 90 going north. It's like crime on steroids in every black community, everywhere. That's why people like LeBron James, when they got some money, move out. We got to tell the truth. And the other thing is that we got to realize it's white liberals as well that are helping foster. They're the ones who put them on television. Michael Eric Dyson, Van Jones. Listen, that boy, what's that Bezos boy gave Van Jones $100 million. What's up with that? What's up with that? You know, it's these white liberals that pick out the sellout, what I call pensioners Negro. Now, they used to call them Uncle Toms or witch doctors. That's what they used to be. Black folk have always had this tribalism about them. Even back in Africa, they had the witch doctor, they had the, you know, and then they gave them a little bit better term over here with Uncle Tom's Cabin. They began known as Uncle Tom's. And they show them what I'm talking. All these people are making hundreds of millions of dollars being supported by white liberals, bleeding hearts. But they're making it on the deaths and the suffering of black people who they don't tell the truth, who they don't tell you got to wash your own underwear. You got to sweep your own street. You got to stop being violent if you don't want violence coming to you. He who lives by the sword going to die by the sword. You can't have every black boy in the community shooting at every other black boy. They're going to all kill each other. This is the kind of truth. And we got to be responsible. And then we got to go back and admit, stop blaming white folk for slavery. Let me tell you something. Africa is rich with black men. You can't take 3 men on a boat to go to Africa and bring back 100 slaves unless black folk are the ones that are selling black folk. And we got to start there. That's what needs to be taught in the schools. That's what the children need. If you don't teach them anything, then you teach them that. Tell them, listen, we have a problem with loving each other. We have a problem of being honorable with one another. And then we're trying to pass it off and trying to make the white man the worst man. We need to go and sit down and talk with, the tribal leaders of the Indians on the reservation here in America today. We need to go talk to them and find out why is it that they were able to take us all the way from Africa 4,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean and make slaves out of us. And the Indians were right here all the time and wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They fought like hell. There are many memorable battles of the Indians fighting with bows and arrows against rifles. But the Indians said, we ain't gonna do it. Why didn't the black people in Africa fight like the Indians did when the white man came? Why? Because the black man was glad to see the white man. He sold his brother. You won't see no Indian in America, they're Native American. Now, you won't see no Native American selling their children to white people to be slaves. No, and that's the truth that needs to be told. Now you do that, it's gonna wake up a whole lot of spirits. It's gonna put Al Sharpton will be out of job. That boy will be applying for unemployment, and so will that boy Ben Crumb. Because all this profiteering that they're making on the misery, the suffering, and the deaths, and the shootings, and the baby's daddy and baby's mama, and the poor neighborhoods, and the unemployment, and the lying, and all that gonna go away. It's gonna go away like a snowball in hell. But we not only need to look at these pensioners, we need to look at these white liberals who know the truth, and they give these people these pensioners, Negro, they give them the platform, put them on television. It's all the, their critical race theory as a part of its thesis is that the whole story about race in America and what white folk did to black folk ain't been told, so we need to go back and revisit it and pull up more history about it, etc. That's what they say, right? Can I share this with you? And I promise to turn you loose. What critical race theory is this. We need the whole story need to be is that black folk are making money off of black folk by not telling them the whole story, by keeping them blind. Black folk are really intellectually, spiritually, philosophically, are enslaving their own. They're still profiteering from slavery. Michael Eric Dyson, Cornel West, Van Jones, Eddie Glaude, Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, Obama, they're still profiteering from slavery, and they're making millions of dollars. They don't have to stay in Africa. Nowadays, it used to be that Uncle Tom would just live in the house with the white man. Well, now they allow these boys to move into the neighborhoods. All the Uncle Toms are living in the neighborhoods, in the white neighborhood, in the ritzy white neighborhoods too, by the way. They used to just live in the house. But no, the modern day Uncle Toms are living in the white neighborhoods. It's the same as it was back in the 16th, 17th, 18th century. Ain't nothing changed. So if you're going to do a whole look, let's tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And here's one other thing. As I've said this, I want to reiterate this. I think this is important. A voice like mine, they don't want to let me nowhere near a national stage to talk like this. No, they're going to try to keep me as quiet as they can. Then I come in the neighborhood and pass out pamphlets and tell all the other black children and people and killing one another and husbands not supporting their wives and running off with all the stimulus money and all of that. They'll tell them, watch out for Manning. Don't go nowhere near him. Stay away from him. He's a hater and he don't like LGBT and he wasn't for our first black president. Obama, our first black president. We got a black president. Obama, our first black president. And we black people got to stick together. So they say, watch out for Manning. Don't let him know where. Don't go interview him. Don't find out. And anybody who talks like Manning, don't let that Manning start talking, because all of us will be out of job. Hell, CNN have to sell its license and roll over and not have broadcast anymore if they don't have the whole process of stirring up fights between the races. CNN won't have nothing to report. They won't have nothing. That's what they're going to talk, because that's all they talk about is stirring up between the races. So stay away from Manning. But no, thank God I got you. Amen. Spread the word. Spread the word. And Pastor Manning has got the truth in his mouth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.